Well, if you tuned in last night expecting to see the world premiere of Hotel California, I am sad to report that we have all been cock-blocked by Don Henley. And now we've got another reason to hate the fucking Eagles. As if we needed one. Now, I've only been doing this parody thing for 6 weeks now? And the way it normally goes is, you upload the video, and then they say there's a copyright claim on this content, so you have to share the revenue with the owner, which is fine. It was a little bit more severe with the Dylan song. On that one, they said you can't even revenue share this one, and that's fine too. But this is the first time I have encountered a response of, nobody on planet Earth may watch this video except on pain of death. Like you go to your content tab and there's a big bright red line through everything. This content is verboten, you Schweinhund. Now I'm one of those people, and you may be one too, who likes to pride himself on always being able to come up with the perfect movie line for any situation. So last night, after it becomes apparent that the video is going to be totally ban-hammered and there will be no premiere, I went out to the living room looking utterly dejected, and when Lady Curmudgeon asked me what was wrong, I gave the same answer Jeff Lebowski gave to the cab driver who wouldn't change the radio station. Come on, man. I had a rough night, and I hate the fucking Eagles. But I do have a workaround that'll make this thing not a total loss, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play the video with no sound, and I'll stick myself down in the corner and do the lyrics as a spoken word voiceover. And before anybody says it, yes, it did occur to me that while 1977 Glenn Frey was the visual aesthetic I was aiming for, I wound up looking a lot more like 1977 Father Guido Sarducci. So without further ado, hit it, Jim Eagle. On a dark, lonely highway, driving to somewhere, I heard the shrill sound of cackling, rising up through the air. Up ahead by the off-ramp, I saw a sickening sight. My ears grew weary and my spirits dimmed. I had had a terrible fright. There she stood by the freeway. She had a tale to tell. And I was thinking to myself, I must have perished, and now I'm in hell. Then she threw me her sandals and said, "Scoot out of my way." She swerved us down the I-5 corridor, and I thought I heard her say, "Welcome to the Hotel California." Such an awful place. Such a smugly face. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. You can check in here, long as you're not queer. Her intellect, it is twisted. Her boss, he wears Depends. She's got a lot of pretty girly boys that she calls friends. How they dance on the East Lawn at the Pride Month event. Some boys get their tits out. Some don't have a set. So I called up Captain Curmudgeon. "Please bring me some beer." He said, "We haven't had Bud Light on tap for at least 2/3 of a year. And still those trannies are dancing the night away." If you listen just exactly right, you're going to hear him say, "Welcome to the Hotel California." Such an awful place. Such a smugly face. They're living it up at the Hotel California. What a big surprise. What's between your thighs? Venn diagrams on the ceiling. A yellow school bus on ice. And she said, "We've all been on a casting couch. At least once or twice. And in the president's chambers, where the people all get fleeced. They try to make sense of her word salad, but they don't understand in the least. Last thing I remember, I found a secret door. I'd stumbled on the passage where Hunter sneaks in all his whores. Relax, said the pimp man. We got stuff you won't believe. You can check out any girl you like, but if you don't pay, you can't leave. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where have I mentioned yet that I hate the fucking Eagles? Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And do you know who the happiest and luckiest man in the United States of America is today? Well, it's a certain semi-animated cadaver and venal houseplant by the name of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Why is he so happy and lucky? Well, let's say you were the president, and you were actively embroiled in probably the worst corruption scandal in the history of American politics. And then, let's suppose that in response to one of the deadliest natural disasters in U.S. history, in which quite possibly hundreds of American children were incinerated inside their own homes, you went to the scene of that tragedy and said some of the most outrageously offensive things ever uttered by a president in public. And then let's suppose that within 48 hours of all that, your political opponents in the other party just completely stopped talking about it, so they could focus on some dumbass debate taking place 15 months before the election that didn't even feature the guy who is going to be their nominee. That was just effectively a lame dog and pony show for the benefit of the GOP swamp donor-tariat, where nobody on the stage is ever going to be the president, and they all know it, and you're the only one in the race for 3 reasons. They're running either to get a position in Trump's cabinet, to get a cushy job on some cable fake news channel, or to get a fabulously well-paid seat on the board of one of the big defense contractors. And you don't need to take my word for it. If you've got a favorite conservative radio host or podcaster, I guarantee you that guy spent his entire show today, or yesterday by the time you're watching this, unless you're a channel member, talking about that stupid, meaningless debate in Milwaukee that nobody will remember anything about by the time we get to next Monday. And if they talked about any other topic, it was Trump's fake indictment in Georgia. It is so very difficult to root for the right when they always, unfailingly, do exactly what the Democrats want them to do, when they are distracted, right on cue, by any shiny object that gets placed in front of them, like a kitten chasing a fucking mosquito. Joe Biden is the worst president in the 247-year history of this republic. He is the most brazenly corrupt public official of at least the last century, when he's called upon to do the thing that should be the easiest part of being president. Namely, being the empathetic conciliator-in-chief who pats bereaved people on the back and tells them he feels bad about what happened to him. He can't even do that right. He winds up drawing a direct comparison between children getting burned alive and a small kitchen fire 20 years ago that almost singed the paint on his Corvette. That is a real thing that the American president did less than 1 week ago. You don't need me to play you the tape because I know you've seen it already. And besides, I don't want to watch it again because I don't think I have ever been so infuriated in my entire life by a display of presidential callousness. Hell, I guess actually I should expand that criticism beyond the presidency and even beyond public officials. What Joe Biden said in that church in Maui was possibly the most shockingly offensive thing I have ever heard a human being say to other human beings. And especially other human beings who have just lost their homes and loved ones and haven't even begun processing their grief yet. Who in many cases haven't even had a chance to locate and bury their dead family members. Joe Biden went into your community, into your local church, and flippantly compared, in between chuckles and snickers, your dead child to his car and his cat. Even now, as I hear these words come out of my mouth, I am beside myself with disbelief that this awful, loathsome bastard, this moral reprobate, this impossibly execrable creature, this sociopathic, self-obsessed son of a bitch, actually said what he said to people whose entire families, in some cases, have just been fatally incinerated less than a week previously. Because seriously, who does that? Well, Joe Biden does it, that's who. And do you think he ever for one moment felt a single pang of compunction or regret or introspection over it? Of course he didn't. He was annoyed that he had to interrupt his stupid vacation in Lake Tahoe, which he of course went right back to after he'd spent 6 hours in Maui making jokes about dead Americans who were sacrificed on the altar of his party's religious fanaticism. Well, when he wasn't dozing off at the memorial service, because that was a great look too. If Donald Trump had responded to a human tragedy with even a fraction of that level of cluelessness and callousness, you and I both know what would have happened. The fake news media would have turned it into a wall-to-wall national scandal, and the Congress would come back from their summer recess to impeach his ass over it. Is there the slightest bit of doubt in your mind that that's how it would play out? Yeah, mine either. There's only one thing I fully expected him to say that he wound up not saying. I thought for sure he was going to go up to some bereaved family and say, I know exactly what you're going through. My son Bo died in a wildfire too. When he wasn't dying in combat in Iraq, or from burn pit fumes in Afghanistan, or from brain cancer in Delaware. Hard to remember sometimes. But suffice it to say, my son Bo died in exactly the same way that your family member just died, because I, Joe Biden, am humanly incapable of expressing empathy or condolence to anyone for anything except by talking about myself. Because I am the actual, literal, worst human being in the whole wide world. In fact, I think if I was Mrs. Joe Biden, and if you're waiting for me to call her Dr. Jill, you're in for a hell of a long wait, I would also be pretty hurt by what my husband, the president, said in that church in Maui, because it's not every day you hear a man say, I nearly lost my wife and my car and my cat. As if he's rattling off a list of things that are of approximately equal value. Even if Joe Biden had an impeccable personal moral track record, which he does not, even if he was a man of many talents and achievements, which he is not, even if he was an ethically upstanding public official, which he very much is not, his little analogy about his cat and his Corvette and his kitchen fire should have permanently wrecked his reputation. But in the event, he only took about 36 hours of criticism over it. Because everybody on the right had their stupid, dumbass, fake debate to talk about. Because, come on, guys, obviously Chris Christie telling Vivek Ramaswamy he sounds like a ChatGPT monologue is an issue of far greater national importance than the President of the United States comparing dead children to his classic car almost getting its paint damaged. Like I said before, it is very, very difficult to root for anybody on the right when they keep stumbling into these same traps they've been stumbling into for the last 30, 35, 40 years or more. During which time, for those fans keeping score at home, the Republican Party has done absolutely nothing to arrest the constant leftward lurch of the culture into unbridled hedonism and profligacy, absolutely nothing to restore our national sovereignty and remove the tens of millions of illegal aliens in the country, absolutely nothing to arrest the exponential growth of the hideous tentacle monster that is our central government, and absolutely nothing, well, less than nothing actually, to stop the proliferation of open-ended blank check foreign military adventures in which tens of thousands of our finest young people have died pointless deaths. You think anybody on that debate stage in Milwaukee gives 2 squirts of piss about your conservative principles? Do you think anybody on Fox News gives 2 squirts of piss about your conservative principles? Newsflash, they do not. Privately, they laugh about how freaking gullible you are, how ridiculously easy it is to keep getting away with all this crap, decade after decade after decade. In the last 35 years, we have had exactly one president who made any attempt to govern as any sort of a conservative. And the Republican establishment has been trying to destroy him ever since the day he came down the golden escalator in June of 2015. You longtime viewers have heard me say what I am about to say many times before, but please indulge me for a moment while I repeat it for the newcomers. I am always going to lament the fact that Donald Trump didn't run for re-election as an independent, or better yet, as a write-in candidate. Because take a look at the voter registration numbers in this country. Nearly 1/3 of the electorate is unaffiliated with either the Donkey Party or the Elephant Party. And yet, for some reason that utterly escapes this reporter, we go out every 2 years and every 4 years and take our pick between the two parties we don't even like enough to be members of. Who does that? Does any conservative voter honestly believe that any of our problems will be ameliorated by replacing Democrats with Republicans? Because if they do, they have not been paying very close attention for the last 30 years. Trump, I think, had a chance to slap that 1/3 of the electorate right across their face and make them wake the hell up by saying, I'm running for re-election against both parties because both parties hate me and both parties hate you. So help me smash once and for all these two ancient, ossified, thoroughly corrupt institutional dens of depravity that have maintained a 150-year stranglehold on the political life of your country, under whose continued domination everything only ever gets worse. If he had gone that route, I think there's a strong possibility he would still be the president today. There's nothing in our Constitution that says we have to have two parties. There is nothing in our Constitution that says we have to have any parties. There's nothing in our Constitution about primaries. It's only been since 1960 that the results of the primaries became binding on whom the nominees wound up being. Before that, they were just glorified opinion polls that the major candidates, more often than not, didn't even participate in. Today, they mostly exist to ensure that the candidates on the ballot in the general election are establishment-approved douchebags who won't rock the boat too much or engage in any unwanted reforms that might imperil the interests of the donor class and the bureaucrat class and the fake news media performance artist class. They view Trump's success in 2016 as a bug in the system rather than a triumph of grassroots democracy, and they are hell-bent on doing absolutely anything it takes to make sure nothing like that happens again, up to and including throwing Trump in prison. Do we need any more evidence that in order to discern what's really happening here? We need candidates who are willing to say, I am running for office, and I don't care about having my name on the ballot. Write in my name if you want to take back your country from corporate kleptocrats. And we need voters who are willing to do that. Because what's the point of having 1/3 of the electorate be not a member of either major party if they all just go out and dutifully vote for major party candidates every time there's a freaking election? There is no point. Everybody says they don't like the status quo, but they don't ever back up their words with actions, which makes one wonder how much they really don't like the status quo. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. I will see you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn!